Testing, testing, testing. Very important. I have a sound check to do. I need to know, please, can anybody hear me okay? Do I sound all right? Do I sound too soft? If you could be kind enough to reply and just confirm if you can hear me all right. I'm hoping that everything is okay as far as I can tell. Because if I get a reply, then I will tell you what do we have here. I go to my mother-in-law. Hello, hearing you loud and clear. Thank you very much, Mike Cam, and I'm glad to hear that, everybody, because I've got a new toy to play with on the live, a wireless microphone at last. So, hi there. Welcome, everybody, to what we call Cast Iron Wednesday. This is a tradition that a lot of YouTube cooking channels have been doing for the last few years. On Wednesday, we all get together on our channels and do a cast iron video, cast iron cooking, cast iron baking, cast iron restoration, pretty much anything. It always seems to be on Wednesdays, and that's why we call it Cast Iron Wednesday. And why not? It's a lot of fun, and it's something to look forward to. And yes, here we go again, as I say every week, because I've been doing this now for more than 2 years. So I very much appreciate everybody who has been kind enough to show up here each week on Cast Iron Wednesday, because it's a lot of fun, and you folks are the reasons to make it fun. And yeah, I'm so glad. Like I said, I've got this wireless mic here now, so I can actually step away and say hi to everybody, like Turner Fowler, William Hurt, Pipgorn, Pawpaw Dan. Hello, everybody, and hello. Fixing my supper bowl now. We'll be back in a few. Well, I'm glad to hear you're doing okay. And hello, Shadow Walker XM. Think I haven't seen you in a while. Glad to see you again. And well, yes, again, thank you, everybody, for showing up here on this. Tomorrow is, of course, the first day of fall, which means today was the last day of summer. Oh boy. Yeah, the equinox will be here at about this time tomorrow night. We. So yes, it is, like it or not, we are getting into that time of the year. Yeah, in my case here, it's funny. It's still warm enough in the day to go out without a jacket, and I still went out in my t-shirt during lunch today, and yet the weather app has predicted that the temperature is going to drop to 40 degrees Fahrenheit by this Friday morning. So, like it or not, tomorrow night I'm going to turn on the radiators in my new home and try them out for the first time. And of course, now let's get back to the subject we're here for, and that, of course, would be cast iron. And naturally, as I said in the title of this video here, well, here we go again. It is fall, and that means it's time for good old pumpkin spice. And yeah, I know we've got pumpkin spice coffee and pumpkin spice popcorn and pumpkin spice ramen noodles. I saw those last year. And pumpkin spice cookies and cereal and pumpkin spice flavored peanuts and pumpkin spice, pretty much you name it. Pumpkin pumpkin spice condoms at the store. So yeah, fortunately, when we don't go overboard, pumpkin spice is actually quite delicious, and I enjoy it in moderation. So, I mean, as long as I don't go really overboard, I love doing pumpkin spice, and that's why I'm doing one of my favorite dishes here tonight, especially since it's also an excuse to break out some vintage cast iron and also do some baking. Because, yeah, I'm going to be saying this for a while, I think. Once again, it's going to be the first time I've done fill in the blank in my new gas stove. And this week it's going to be baking in a cast iron bundt pan. To be precise, it's that vintage bundt pan I found about a year ago, which I call the Monarch. It's that wonderful shaped cast iron cake pan that isn't even actually a bundt pan. And we're going to be using that to make ourselves a chocolate chip pumpkin spice cake tonight. And I'm good. And fortunately, I've even gotten the ingredients together in preparation for once. So we're not going to spend the entire time just mixing the cake together. I do want to mix the ingredients together nonetheless. But as I said, this should not take very long. unfortunately, especially since I want to try to do this in a way that the batter gets a little more airy than it was before. So that's why we start out here. I have the recipe to it in my already on my website as well, and I have the link to it on my on my yeah, on the description of this video. And yeah, as you can see, we've got some cast iron here in the background as well. We'll be playing around with that as well once the cake is in the oven and baking. Anyway, yeah, I love baking cakes from scratch. I mean, it's really not that difficult. You know, and furthermore, you don't actually destroy your kitchen when you're baking a cake, despite what all of those cartoons and sitcoms say. So we start out with our usual ingredients here. We've got 2 cups of all-purpose flour into this. I put in baking powder, baking soda, and salt. And then from there comes our ingredient, comes the spices. And an interesting story about these little spices here, in that, yeah, I've just moved into my new place here, and that means there are a lot of things that I still have to restock. And unfortunately, that's why I was going through my spice cupboard tonight. What we're supposed to have here would be cinnamon, cardamom, ground ginger, and nutmeg. And I found out at pretty much the last minute, about 30 minutes ago, that I did not have cinnamon and I did not have nutmeg. So after the initial panicking, I figured that all I could do was, well, with the cinnamon, what I did have were cinnamon sticks. So I got out the spice grinder and ground these cinnamon sticks to a powder. So this is actually pretty fresh cinnamon. Actually, I can say the same thing about the cardamom as well. Earlier this year, I had a bag of green cardamom pods, and I did the same thing, ground them up into powder. So both of these are fresh and potent. The nutmeg, on the other hand, no, I don't have whole nutmegs on me. That's one thing I still have to get, and you better believe I'll be doing it like this weekend. So I'm doing kind of an experiment and substituting mace powder for this. And actually, I'm kind of excited about that because mace is one of those unusual spices that you don't use, that a lot of people don't use very often. It actually has a wonderful savory smell to it and taste that's really not too far from nutmeg. Probably the most common thing that folks use mace for, I think, in fact, would be, of all things, making breakfast sausage. So there gives you an idea of the taste of that. Other than that, we've got some good old ground ginger here. So yeah, these spices are going to be interesting. And anyway, here we go, because that's the other thing I learned the hard way, in that not just tonight, but over in previous instances. This is a very important step, whisking the ingredients together or sifting the flour in advance. Either way, the point being is that you actually are mixing some air into this, and this will get some air into the batter and make it lighter. And especially since I found out this is a pretty heavy cake, then again, this makes it really something of an essential step. It's something, as I said, I did not do this for a long time, but I really found that there is a difference when you do this in this order. I mean, they have these steps in these recipes for a real reason, which is also why I'm also going to be creaming together the sugar and the butter before I actually get started with the before I actually just mix everything together. I mean, the initial recipe, which I still have to update, simply says throw all your ingredients together in the mixing bowl and then mix them. And it does work, but I'm trying to get a somewhat lighter cake and a less heavy cake. And that's why this is actually an important step. And having done this and gotten our dry ingredients mixed together, we can already move on to the wet ingredients, which reminds me. Okay, I can see maybe I might have made one little mistake. So I'm going to have to fix that. Namely, that I was going to use the residual heat from the oven to soften this butter. It doesn't look like it's softened enough yet, which means I better throw on, whoops, wrong one, better throw on just a little bit heat here to melt it. Hey, I get to use my gas stove that way, so I know that won't take very long. And this was another excuse anyway to use a vintage cast iron pan. What we have here, by the way, is a BSR Red Mountain number 3 skillet. Yes, it's a number 3 skillet, a 6-inch skillet. You know, one of those things that a lot of people say, what do you use these things for? And there are many things you can do with that. Oh yeah, this thing is just going crazy with this butter already. So this will only be like about another minute or so before it will be soft enough to mix into the batter. So no problem at all here. But yeah, like I said, it's a number 3. I'm doing 1.5 sticks of butter. So if I were doing less than a stick of butter, in fact, I would have brought out one of the ashtray skillets because, again, that thing is probably like the best butter melter you can use. I mean, you can see how quickly, actually, if I give you a little close up here, you can see how quickly this butter is melting here. So in maybe just another few seconds or so, I'll be able to throw this into the mixer, and then we will get started with the next step here. So yeah, Rick Stumbaugh, things you're learning. Well, I'm not sure. Okay, I guess I missed that, but nonetheless, the point is that yeah, as I keep blathering on here, all of these are lessons that I learned as well. So it's not like I'm trying to teach a class here. It's more like I'm speaking from experience. That's why I'm preparing this cake in this manner. But yeah, that did not take long at all. So let's get on with it and get to our mixer. There we go. Got to be careful of this camera too. So I get to turn off this off. And now, mise en place, everything in its place. Oh, wow. Yeah, that was fast. Boy, this thing heats things up fast. The handle of that pan became hot quite fast. I still have to get used to how quickly this gas stove is heating everything up here. It certainly did not take this. It did not do it this quickly to melt butter on the old electric stove. I'll definitely say that. So yes, I'm quite happy with that. And again, we've got about a cup and a half, no, a stick and a half of butter. Now I can put this aside. And then from there, go to the sugar, which fortunately I've also prepared already. Yeah, we've got a cup of white sugar and a cup of brown sugar. Plop. In it goes. Come on. Yeah. Okay, that's one. Let's try it on this end. All right, let's just scrape the rest of it in. There we go. And on comes the handle. Up we go. Come on. And this won't take very long either. Just simply creaming together the butter and sugar. Oh yeah, my lovely mixer making its wonderful sound. I have yet another project in the works. I ordered myself some food grade grease, especially the kind used for cleaning these kitchens, these stand mixers. So that hopefully this weekend, if I have the time, I'm actually going to take apart this mixer and clean it. I can only imagine what I'm going to find on the inside. Anyway, that sure didn't take long. Now we'll just turn that down a little bit. And checking my list here. Okay, the next step, about the only thing I did not prepare in advance is molasses. Oh yeah. As a New Englander, it was absolutely necessary to get molasses. So, oops, there we go. Plenty here. And I just realized the one thing I did not do was grease this grease the spoon in advance for the molasses. I can't believe I forgot that, of all people. Oh well, c'est la vie. Means we'll just have to do it the hard way. Yes, I washed my hands. Flop. There we go. Love molasses. Actually, that's one of those savory sweet flavors that I got used to. I remember trying molasses when I was really young and definitely not liking the taste. I don't know, maybe because I know it's not as sweet as honey and it has its own unique flavor. But I don't mind the taste of molasses these days. Anyway, after the molasses, we will now go on mix in our eggs, which I've already done. Can we see this? Yes, we can. Okay. 1, 2, 3. And after the eggs, okay, here's the other fun thing. Pumpkin puree. So, waited until the last moment to open this thing up. Fortunately, we get to use an entire can of this stuff so that there won't be any left over. And I have in the past as well used actual fresh pumpkin, but in this case, I just wanted to do this quickly. So we will get this in as fast as we can. Come on. Maybe I should have put it in a bowl. Nonetheless, try to do this nice and easy here. There we go. Maybe I should remove the whole lid. And yeah, I've learned this the hard way, that if you use too much pumpkin, this cake becomes too heavy. I've had that happen a couple of times. So this is pretty thick stuff. And that's one reason why I'm trying to lighten this cake tonight. So there we go. And there's our pumpkin puree. That's also why I'm mixing everything in at low speed, mixing it nice and gentle here. I'll speed it up in a moment. And from there, one thing I gotta get out of the fridge. Ugh. Boy, I like having this wireless mic. It's very convenient. Gotta get out a little bit of vanilla extract. It says here about a teaspoon. I know this is like an oil decanter or something, but hey, it works fine for vanilla extract, so why not? Because yeah, I've been making my own homemade vanilla extract for a while now. And with that, it's time now for the next step. And that is mixing the dry ingredients into the wet ingredients. I'll wait and let that go. And a little bit more. There we go. Finally, the last of it. That slid out very nicely, too. I like that. Get a little bit off the sides here. At all times, notice I've been keeping this on low. Maybe I'll turn it up for just a tad. But I'm trying not to overmix it. Hopefully we'll get this nice and light that way. Finally, at this point, the last ingredient here, oh, by the way, oh, God damn, what are you having for dinner? See, it's cake this evening. What kind? This is going to be chocolate chip pumpkin spice cake. We just mixed the pumpkin spice batter. Now you get to add the chocolate chips. There we go. Don't get these things all over the place. That would be bad. There we go. And yeah, it makes a nice grinding noise that way. Actually, it turned out, I think I goofed. I got mini chips. Well, that's okay. They'll mix in okay. All right. I think I will turn this off. Mix it just a little bit more just before I actually get it into the pan. And now we'll move over here, and it's time to break out the Monarch. Oh, damn it! I can't believe this. I just broke this thing here on this cheap tripod. I'm not having much luck with these things. 2 weeks ago, I broke the other handle. Oh boy. Oh well. You know, just the show must go on. All right. Next up, okay, because it's a hot pan, I have to rest it on a trivet. Don't want to burn it. Don't want to burn the board. Okay. And with that, oh yeah, one other thing I need to get out. Crisco. So that we can, oh crap, I did forget one important ingredient. How did I miss this? I forgot buttermilk in this batter. My bad. Well, it's not too late now. Thank goodness. Let's get this in. There we go. I have no idea how I overlooked that. But nonetheless, fortunately, it's not too late. Okay. That batter didn't look too bad without the buttermilk, I will say. But nonetheless, it still looks okay. At least I didn't forget after I put the batter in the pan. That would have been a real problem. And yeah, that's where we come into, as you folks like to say, here's where we come to the chaos part. Yes, indeed. I do call this cast iron chaos for a reason. That really was not the original reason, but that's what it turns out to be. Nonetheless, as I said, actually, let me mix the sides one more time. And yeah, this batter actually, despite what I just said, batter looks pretty light, and I'm glad about that. We'll mix it a little bit more just before I put it in. Now, back to where I was. So far, we've had two fun little mishaps. I broke the handle on my tripod. I forgot the buttermilk. Let's see what happens now. Hopefully nothing. So, because now it's time to get the pan out of the oven. I have preheated the pan to 425 because this is my favorite method for cooking in a cast iron bundt pan. And here we go. I am not using the same gloves I used last week where I practically burned myself. Now this time I'm using better pot holders. And here it is, the Monarch. As I mentioned before, this was a Brimfield score. Boy, I have no idea when I'll ever, oh, now what? Oh, like I said, something's always happening. There we go. Okay. Yeah, this was a Brimfield score last year. I have no idea when I'll be returning to Brimfield because now it's going to be more of a real road trip to go to Brimfield instead of simply hopping in my car and just driving 20 minutes. So, nonetheless, when and if that happens, that will be an adventure. I'll probably go with friends, in fact. So, but yeah, this is what I like to do. I preheat the cast iron pan to 425 degrees. And yes, that's a high temperature, which I do intentionally. And as you can see, I spread Crisco through every inch of the pan, including the center here. Because my intention is once the batter goes in, this will go in the oven, and I immediately turn down the heat. And I better not forget that step. Down to 325 in this case, in fact. This particular cake I have to bake for a long time. It's going to bake for an hour and 15 minutes. That's why I'm trying to get this done as quickly as I can. And it has to be done because it's such a thick cake, as I mentioned. It's thick and heavy. So I have to do it low and slow in order to thoroughly bake the inside without burning the outside. So get a little bit more up around the edges here as best as I can. And I do believe at this point we are about ready for the batter. I'll make sure I covered every bit of it, especially the top. There we go. Now, like I said, let's mix this one last time. Just a minute or so. Move this over. Turn this off. Down we go. Gosh darn, someone's going to have to lick this. What a shame. Okay, well, since I'm by myself, I may not be able to. Okay, and here we go. This also means here they are. Next step is pour the excess batter, excess oil into the batter. Mix it quickly. And this gives an excuse as well to scrape the sides so we can be sure that it's thoroughly mixed. Especially with these chocolate chips, we don't want them all to sink to the bottom. All right, and then from there, I think I accidentally clicked on the mouse. I don't want that to happen. There we go. Finally, move this over carefully so that you can see it. There we go. And in we go. In fact, I have to be careful because this cake pan is smaller than the large cake pan. So I actually can't use all of this batter. I mean, as you can see, this thing is already going up near the top here. This should probably be all I want to do, in fact. But there we go. Sample the batter. That was pretty good. Oh, yeah. Like I mentioned, I used mace powder instead of nutmeg. I'm not regretting it. I think it worked. All right, now let's quickly get this into the oven. And then we get to play with some cast iron. Must not forget to turn down the heat. In we go. Careful, careful. There we go. Don't want this wire to go there. And we're in. Now, like I said, we turn the heat down. And there we are. In reverse. That's interesting. Bake. Down to 325. Start, and we're good. Oh, yes, indeed. Once again, that's been something of an adventure. Can't believe I broke another handle on these tripods during the live. Not doing so great. I will say this, the tripod was not the most expensive thing in the world. So It's still a pain though, because now I'm going to have to get yet another one to replace it. Oh well, that's life. And anyway, I'm the one who chose to do this. So, okay, let's look at a couple of comments. Then we've got some time to play with cast iron because, as I said, this thing's going to be in the oven for the next hour. That's why I brought out some of my collection as well. So, okay, yeah, it's still worth it to hit a place like Brimfield, says William Hurt. Also, check what's going in your current area. Yeah, there is that. There, as I think we mentioned a couple of weeks ago, there is a very good antique center in Owego, which is not too far from here, that I still haven't had a chance to visit. And hello, Anne. Yes, low and slow. Yes, exactly. And yeah, despite the little comments that you can make about that, I mean, that's why I'm doing this cake intentionally like that. Um, Going a little further up here, Papa Dan, it was 99 degrees in Cynthia's and my area. It's supposed to hit 100 degrees tomorrow. Yeah, fall is here down south. Oh, yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, down south. What do you get? Like 60 degrees or something? Of course, when it actually snows, you guys have to declare an emergency. So I can't complain too much. Save the buttermilk. Yes. Yeah, add vinegar to the milk. As a matter of fact, that's what I did most of the time when there's a recipe called for buttermilk. I do use the cheap substitute, which is 1 cup of milk plus 1 tablespoon of vinegar. You let it sit and curdle for 20 minutes, and it has the consistency of buttermilk. And no one has complained, not me, and not any of my guests. So I like using that cheap buttermilk substitute. Sometimes I will splurge and get actual buttermilk for things like birthday cakes and the like. But really, in this instance, that is exactly what I did. Yes. This is like watching myself cook. I'm always forgetting ingredients. Yes, exactly. So thank you for forgiving me for that. Well, fortunately, as I said, I got that milk, buttermilk, whatever you call it, in just in the nick of time, fortunately. It did not ruin the cake. So further up, let's see. I heard when you take a KitchenAid apart that the gears are aligned with the machine and are very hard to get the speeds back up correctly. Yeah, I will do my research. I will check some. I will look at some YouTube videos and otherwise check the whatever. Check the I guess some manuals as well before I actually open this thing up. I really don't think it'll be that bad. I mean, as they say, gears are aligned with the machine. Well, we will find out. I mean, I can't think it's got to be as sensitive. It should not be as sensitive as some kind of a major, extremely sensitive machine like a lathe or a machinist's or a professional thing like that. I mean, after all, what is it? It's an engine that simply turns, you know, the it turns the beater or the paddle, and that's it. So hopefully it shouldn't be too bad. I will, as I said, research it before I actually open this thing up. So, and there are two types of cook. One has a KitchenAid, the other wants one. Yeah, this KitchenAid, as a matter of fact, I inherited from my dad, of all things, because my dad, when he was, it's like he would go into these hobbies every few years or so when he would go all out and then just plain drop it like a rock and then never do anything after for the rest of his life after that. Yeah, when we cleaned out the house after he passed away a few years ago, there were the remains of many hobbies there. I mean, he was collecting and shooting guns back in like the late 70s or early 80s, and he had literally a collection of guns that had been sitting there unattended and getting rusty for almost 30 years. So that was only one of the things we had to do. But I ended up inheriting a few kitchen items from him, including that KitchenAid. So I will do my best to try to clean it. What else do we have here? I ordered a Rick Stumbaugh. I ordered a 10-inch griddle from Amazon, and it came today. Victoria, nice. Hey, nothing wrong with that. I'd say go ahead. Well, open it and use it. I think that's the best I could say. I wonder if the pumpkin was fresh baked, says Val's Black Cats. Well, I can only hope so. I did actually get it out of a can this time, I admit. I have used fresh baked pumpkin before, but I didn't have time to prepare all that tonight. Are we ready for Halloween yet, says Grumpy Old Gringo. I hope so. I remember my Halloween adventure last year, and I'm hoping now that I'm living in an entirely new neighborhood, I'm wondering what Halloween is going to be like for trick or treaters in my neighborhood. So I don't know if they're actually going to be kids, which will be great. I really want to. I really want to do kids. Correction. I really want to get out my cast iron cauldron, fill it with candy, and pass it out to kids. That's really what I've been wanting to do all these years. But it's hasn't happened in at least 10 years. I'll see what it's like in this neighborhood. All done in cast iron, Papa Dan, brown roast in a BSR, and cook the stew in an enamel large Dutch oven. Oh, yeah, I'm sure your family is going to be very, very satisfied with that. This is like my, forgetting one of my favorites, double fried egg on the BSR Century. I forgot the eggs in the sweet rolls I made Saturday. Still came out today. Well, I'm glad to hear that at least. So, okay, and having gotten through all that, it'll still be worth it to hit a place like Brimfield. No, we said that part already. No change, but I'm getting used to my new eyesight. Surgeon didn't give me another injection because of my eye pressure. Well, again, I can only hope things are going okay. Paw down. So check out what's going on in your area. And if there are a lot of families, kids in your neighborhood, sounds like a lot of trick or treaters at your door. Yeah, there actually are quite a few kids in the neighborhood, and so I can only hope so. Glenn and Friends Cooking has an excellent tear down and repair of a KitchenAid vid on his channel. So there we go. Yeah, that means that I should be able to do that. Skillet showed up today. Got a burger press too. You will enjoy that. After all, it is a large cast iron pan, and so there's not you will get a lifetime of use out of that. I have no doubt at all there. I saw a cute sign at Tractor Supply. The neighbors have better candy. Not in my case. I want to be the good house. I can only hope the neighborhood is worth it. So, the cauldron and trouble in the window. Yes, exactly. So, all right, have you talked to Jamie as of late? I'm afraid not. There have been some reasons for that I am not going to get into, I'm afraid, but I'm afraid I have not had much contact with Jamie. It's kind of personal. I do not air my personal drama and stuff on the internet. Sorry. Okay, but having said all that, let's have some fun here and play with some cast iron. Why don't we? Oh, by the way, on top of everything else, if you'll see in the background, yeah, what was a huge cast iron rack has been split into no less than 4 cast iron racks. Here in the kitchen, I've gotten, well, my enamels and also a fair number of the baking pans together here in the kitchen. Whereas over in another room, I have the other racks with all of the other cast iron. I've spread it out partially to distribute the weight so that it's not all in one place. And yeah, that way I'll less chance of damaging the floor. After all, this is my own home now. I'm a lot more concerned about that than I used to be. But nonetheless, what I was hoping to do, meanwhile, to pass the time is talk about, well, what else? Baking in cast iron. Because yeah, after all, we've got, I mean, that's really the point of tonight's video, in that I did prepare a cake in cast iron because when people talk about cast iron cooking, the first thing they talk about, of course, is frying. You get yourself a cast iron frying pan and you make that steak and those eggs and that cornbread. And of course, there's nothing at all wrong with that. However, I think people bake in cast iron probably almost as much as they bake in, as they fry in cast iron. I mean, cast iron really is, again, probably one of the best things in the world to bake in. And it's a shame that people don't do more baking in cast iron. I mean, I mean, as you know, people have their glass pie plates, for instance, or even worse, those little aluminum foil pie plates. Whereas baking in a cast iron skillet will get you a pie and a pot pie and just about anything else far better. Not to mention all of those fun little cast iron toys that have been made, especially for baking over the years. And I mean, we can start modern and work our way back if you want, because yeah, I did show this off and before, and this is in fact, here we go, the brand new Lodge Skull Pan, which is here just in time, of course, for Halloween. Louis J. Cast Iron Cooking, in fact, he did a live video last week and he made pound cake in this because yeah, first thing I can say is that this actually was a lot bigger than I expected. I did not expect this thing to be so big. Let me see if let me pull the camera down here so that I can give an idea of how big this thing is. Here is a typical corn stick pan. This is a BSR 7-stick corn stick pan. And if you look at that, you can see that this skull pan is much bigger than you might expect. I made cornbread in this thing, and it took up an entire batch of cornbread, the kind of cornbread that you would normally put, or the type of batch of cornbread you would put in a 9 or 10 inch cast iron skillet, fit easily in these six um, spaces, or these six skull spaces here in this pan. So this is actually a pretty big baking pan. These skulls here are not bite size. Rather, I would say that these are probably the size you would get with those, not just muffins, but those giant muffins that they sell at stores or have at meetings at work. So yeah, I mean, if you made mini cakes for the kids in in this skull pan, yes, giving them just one each would not be out of the question because it would be a nice sized little skull cake. For the record, you see these little grooves here, or these little spaces on the inside where the teeth are on this thing. If you turn it over, you'll see that that's completely missing. They did not actually do indentations of the teeth on the outside, although they did do the Lodge logo here on the top. So there's no question at all who made this. Gone are the days when Lodge made completely unmarked skillets and nobody knew where, or pans, and nobody knew who made them. Now Lodge is very proud of putting its logo on all of its pans, and there's really nothing wrong with that either, I would say. And yeah, I want one of those skull skillets, says William Hurt. And Anne says, I'm picturing a Nightmare Before Christmas theme for those skulls. And why not? Yes, and Hippie Longshanks, I used my skull pan for the first time this week. The cake stuck badly. Well, um, may I suggest you do what I'm doing here tonight? I preheat. Notice I did not grease and flour that bundt pan. I preheated it in the oven and then coated it with Crisco, or you could do it with oil just before I put in the batter. And I did this really because my cakes initially stuck as well. When I started cooking in a cast iron bundt pan, I did not have a high success rate. I would say at least 1 out of 3 of my cakes were sticking, and I did not like that. So I tried some experiments and considered the fact that when you make cornbread, how do you make cornbread? You do so by preheating the pan and then mixing in the oil and then putting the batter into the hot pan so that you get that sizzle. And it really occurred to me, well, if it works for cornbread, would it work for cake? And I tried it and I was very successful. I would say over the years now, by using that method here in the cast iron bundt pan, I've had maybe a 90% or 85 to 90% success rate on my cakes. I've still had a couple instances where the cake stuck, yes. And those were like when I tried making Kentucky butter cake, for instance. But on the whole, it's been a very successful method. And might I ask, give it a try at least once in your cake pan and see whether or not it works. Why didn't you preheat the pan? I did preheat the pan, or maybe you were talking to somebody else, I guess. So yeah, Buckshot MC. I was on the Lodge website trying to find the candy skull skillet and couldn't find it. Oh, they're definitely still available. Go on the Lodge website and use the search uh, um, there and simply search for skull and you'll find it. So yeah, it's pretty easy to find. Or go to Lodge's Facebook page because they are plugging the heck out of these skull pans on their Facebook page, and they have direct links to it there. So anyway, I've only just started here because, yeah, as I said, that's the thing about baking, and they've made all kinds of fancy and cute and beautiful baking pans over the years. I mean, as I mentioned already, if you go to any flea market or antique mall, you will always, well, about 98% of the time, find at least one of these cornstick pans. And typically, it's at an antique mall, it'll be either dirt cheap or ridiculously expensive, depending on whether it's marked or not. Because if it's unmarked, you'll probably find it dirt cheap, or it might still have a high price and simply say cast iron corn pan. On the other hand, if it actually has a logo saying Griswold or Wagner, well, there you go. You should probably mortgage out your house to buy one of these silly little things. So yes, no, I don't have a Wagner cornstick pan for that reason. But on the other hand, I'm quite happy that this is a BSR cornstick pan, which I can tell from the writing, most importantly from the handles. That's the nice thing about these cornstick pans is that they've been very easy to identify, largely because of the handles. This indented handle here immediately tells you that this is a BSR handle, a BSR pan, for instance. So they're not especially hard to find for precisely that reason. And yeah, I enjoy making cornbread and brownies in this pan. And yeah, there's this joke picture going around the internet saying, I made some brownies in this cornstick pan and nobody wants to eat them. Everybody's seen that silly picture, and I'm not going to get into it any more than that. So, but yeah, that just shows how popular these things are and how easy they are. Boy, I'm really enjoying this wireless mic. Papa Dan, based on your cake method of preheating the pan and then greasing it, do you do the same thing for cornbread? Oh, absolutely. That's where I learned how to do this. In fact, it was the other way around. I first started doing this with cornbread, and it was because it was successful with cornbread that I decided to try it with a cake pan, and it worked very well. So, absolutely. You grease your cornbread pan after preheating. Yes, I do. In fact, I've got a video here on my channel, and I call it How to Use a Cast Iron Cornbread Pan. So yes, I put the dry cornbread pan here into the oven. Oh yeah, speaking of which, let's also pull out another cornbread pan that everybody has seen, and that of course is the cornbread skillet, or as Lodge calls it, the wedge pan. And I've said quite a bit about these pans from BSR, where, as I mentioned enough times, that these were the biggest seller in BSR's history. And this really pretty much, actually, yeah, I could call this a game changer. This thing literally changed history as far as baking is concerned and as far as baking in cast iron is concerned, because this thing was so dang popular that everybody has made these cornbread skillets since then. Although this one, on the other hand, is the somewhat less common 6 wedge pan that BSR made for several years here before discontinuing it. And lately there have been some arguments about the history of this pan. Um, Over on some of the cast iron collectors groups, I've been frequenting those cast iron collectors groups less frequently lately, largely because there are folks on there who, well, let's just say they really like to tear into people who they say are wrong. You're wrong, and I'm going to flame you, and you're an idiot, and so on and so forth, because it's utterly very, very important to know that BSR actually produced these cornbread pan, corn stick, no, these cornbread skillets throughout their entire history. No, they did not discontinue them in the early 1970s. Um, I haven't seen the evidence for that yet. I'm still going to hold out with the claim that I have on my website here that BSR made these six wedge skillets, and after several years, I would hesitantly say maybe the mid 1970s or so, they discontinued these six wedge skillets and only produced the eight wedge skillets. My theory for that, which I also really can't prove either, is the fact that they still have the patent pending mark on it. I would think that just like the larger cornbread skillet, if they continued producing this throughout their entire life, through the entire rest of the lifespan of their company, then they would have changed the patent pending to a made in USA mark, or at least that is my opinion. I have been flamed quite a bit for saying that now. So yeah, I am not one who likes those silly arguments that are breaking out over the history of cast iron. So, and because I'm not a fan of drama on the internet, as I said, I'm not going to go into detail over it either. I think a lot of it is pretty silly because, in the end, it's collecting. And whether it's comic book collecting, or stamp collecting, or gun collecting, or cast iron collecting, or coin collecting, I mean, yeah, there's right and there's wrong. But if you're wrong, or if I'm wrong, well, this thing will still make some good cornbread. That's about all I'll say about that. Did I just accidentally click the mouse again? Gotta watch myself. I better move this mouse away so that I stop doing that. There we go. Anyway, this is the the six what do you call this? The God, I can't believe I've forgotten my I hope I'm not going senile here. Nonetheless, this is the six wedge cornbread skillet, as opposed to the more common um, eight wedge cornbread skillet that is actually still pretty easy to find these days. Even the BSR one, the original one. And I have a bit of an affinity for this because it came out the year I was born, and that is 1967. So I'm pleased to own one each of these. So, and yeah, Lodge has been producing an imitation of that throughout the ever since, and they call it the wedge pan. And just recently, they redesigned it now, so now they have a round cornbread pan or wedge pan that has handles on it. Those little handles on the side rather than this long handle. And hey, it works. I have no doubt about that. I have not purchased that because I don't need to own every single cast iron pan that's ever been made. I mean, as you can see, I have three cornbread skillet pans right here. I don't need another one. That's a sad fact that I have to really be careful here when it comes to collecting cast iron. So I want that Lodge wedge one, and my Lodge has a hole in the middle. Yes, all of the Lodge pans have a hole in the middle, and that is intentional. So I'm not sure if they did it especially to differ from BSR or because it actually cooks the cornbread better. I suspect the former. I think it's more likely they did it especially to differ from BSR. So it's just our opinions on the six wedge pan. Yeah, pretty much, but thank you. What do I see? Miss Mobley in poor little trouble have to eat out of common stainless steel. Oh, yeah, there. Well, those, yeah. I'm not going to get them cast iron food dishes, no, because those things would unfortunately rust. I don't know. Maybe I should look for ceramic dishes or glass dishes for them, perhaps. Um, and maybe that's not out of the question. Meanwhile, on the other hand, in the center piece there, let me move over. There we are. There is a water fountain, drinking fountain for them. So, and that again was because of Anne. She inspired me to get a water fountain for them to drink from because apparently cats like drinking moving water more than still water. It's also good because by constantly circulating the water, I don't have to change it every day. So that's also rather convenient. Anyway, we've only gone as far as the cornbread pans at this point because we can keep on going and talk about things like, for instance, the John Wright Company, where, as you know, they made a whole bunch of these really, really fancy baking pans. And those were all in the 1980s to the 1990s or so. This particular one is the alpha, is the animal cracker pan. Call it that because it has these wonderful animal shapes here. And so naturally, the first thing you would think of would be making animal crackers in this. So um, John Wright, it's interesting. You know, John Wright, the John Wright Company is still in business too, and they're in Pennsylvania, and they're probably only like maybe about a 2 to 3 hour drive from where I'm living now. So, yeah, that's yet another thing. One of these days, at some point in the future, I definitely want to drive down there and visit the John Wright. But so many of these these baking pans, not just cornbread pans, were made by the John Wright Company to the point where, well, like it or not, they did not do as well for the company as they would have liked. Otherwise, they would have continued making them. And even today, strangely enough, even though USA made cast iron has become so popular, especially with this renaissance, John Wright pans still seem to have been largely left on the wayside in that you can still often find these things at really cheap prices. And if you want to bake in at least one, I would certainly recommend picking up at least one. So, yeah, Papa Dan. The first time I cooked in my large enamel Dutch oven, that thing cooked my roast and vegetables quicker than I thought. Well, I'm glad to hear that too. So, Honey Badger, I have an unmarked Wagner chicken fryer with a hinge hole. Did Wagner make a hinged hit for the unmarked? That's a good question. I'm I'm racking my brains here and thinking they actually did. Um, but let me see. You said, did they make a hinged lid? Well, I would have to say, actually, now that I'm thinking of it, you must have answered your own question. You know, you figure if you have an unmarked Wagner with a hinge for the lid, then they would have had to have made a lid for it, actually. I mean, I really hope I don't sound like I'm being condescending when I say that, but it seems pretty logical. So, oh, wait, actually, who am I kidding? I have one of those lids. Duh. Excuse me 1 second, very quickly. Let me dig this out as fast as I can. Hi, Mobley. And yay, I hope this doesn't get me out of range of this mic. I guess I'm about to find out. Oh, no, excuse me. Yeah, you're gonna hear a lot of clanging and clanking and everything, but that's because I'm digging through this tub here, which I only just recently unpacked. Here it is. Ugh. Okay. Now I have a very important question as well. Can you folks hear me, or did I walk out of range of the mic? Can you still hear me on? Can you please ask? Can you please answer? Can you hear me? Because oh, good, sound is good. I'm glad to hear that. That was the very first time I walked into the other room with this wireless mic. I honestly did not know if I would have gone out of range. This thing is supposed to have like about a 20-foot range, but hey, I'm glad to hear that. Anyway, guess what this is? This is an unmarked Wagner with lid with the hinge, and I forgot about that as well. In fact, I found this at an antique mall in New Bedford, Massachusetts, for $5 because nobody knew what it was. I mean, just from the shape of this thing, you anybody would think that this is just simply a cast iron frying pan, and that's exactly what it had. It was $5, and it had a label saying cast iron frying pan. But it had been pointed out that this is, in fact, a Wagner lid. And you can tell as well because of the rim here. It has the edge. And most importantly, it has the little hinge tab. So there's your answer. Yes, there is an unmarked lid for the unmarked Wagner chicken fryer. And I hope that helps. Thank you. You reminded me of that, so thank you very much for that. So, um, I forgot even to check the time when I put that in the oven, but I'm thinking this is probably not going to be done until maybe about quarter of 10, if I figure right, because it has to bake for 75 minutes. I believe I put this in the oven at just around 8:30, so meaning that it's only been about half an hour or so, but I'm just trying to remind myself of when this is going to come out of the oven. I'm hoping I can at least keep this live going until it comes out of the oven. So thank you again for telling me about the sound. Thank you so much. Looks like a 5-star lid. Well, no, as you can see, it just simply has this round design here. There's no stars on this one, so this is definitely not that. This is, in fact, the Wagner unmarked lid. So, yeah. Oh, yes, it was 8:30. Thank you very much. So that means I definitely have to keep this going. Yeah, I think I have the bottom of that chicken fryer. Yeah, RT Scott, are you the one who offered to buy this one from me maybe a couple of months or a few months ago? Somebody actually offered it to buy it from me, and then the deal not so much fell through, but either me or someone did not really follow up on it. So, and yeah, I would probably not be averse to selling this. I'm not trying to just plug my stuff here, but it's like, as I said, I found this thing for $5, and that's the main reason why I got it. Because yeah, it's a type of deal you don't want to pass up. And now I have it, and I'm never going to use it. I've got this huge bleeping cast iron collection. I have too many pans as it is. So I really would not object to getting rid of this and selling it for a deep. Oh, I got batter on my hand. That's batter, folks. Don't worry, it's nothing bad. Mm. Yeah, that was pretty good too. But anyway, yeah, I would not object to selling that for for a nice price here, and I'm not going to gouge anyone for it either. But yeah, um, but what can I say? It's like there are so many cast iron baking pans that are really meant especially for baking. Although you can make many other things in it. I mean, let me pull out another one here. Actually, pretty common and one that I would recommend for anybody who does serious baking: a bread pan. And this particular one is a camp chef as well. It's not even a lodge. When I got this, maybe I was being silly, but I actually ended up choosing this one over the lodge one because it is like maybe a fraction of an inch bigger than the lodge bread pan. Not that that really makes any difference, but nonetheless, if you are into serious baking, then yes, you do need at least one of these. I mean, it's just like how anybody who's seriously into baking, even though you can bake a pie in a cast iron skillet, you will certainly have a pie plate, whether it's a cast iron pie plate or a glass pie plate. You'll certainly have a pie plate or even a collection of pie plates, even though you don't need it. And it's the same way here with this bread pan. On the other hand, having this, of course, means you'll make some awesome bread in it and meatloaf too. So, and yes, you could actually use it pretty much like you could use any other pan. You could use this as a skillet if you wanted to, for instance. I mean, there's no reason not to use this, like say for for making eggs and anything else. It's really no different from those from the bigger cast iron fish fryer, for instance. So, but yeah, I enjoy having this. However, one thing that I actually came across several years ago, and I'm actually quite proud to own as well, is this little oddity. Now, when I first saw this several years ago, I thought this was extremely cute. It really looks like a miniature version of a ham boiler, doesn't it? And it's, how they talk about salesman samples, like those silly little cast iron toy stoves that are just toys. Not that there's really anything wrong with that. And yet, if you go to any antique mall across the country, anywhere, you will always see those things put up as a salesman sample, when in fact they were toys. Well, I was of the opinion that this may have actually been a salesman sample of a ham boiler. It even has a logo on the bottom that says HB. But turns out I was wrong about that. I learned, and no, this one, nobody chastised me over this one. They just informed me, and I was interested to know that there was this small foundry, in fact, in the southern United States, located not too far from the large foundry, in fact, that produced these interesting little deep pans here. And I came across this one, in fact, at the giant flea market in Seaverville in Tennessee. Those of you who have been down there know about Seaverville. That's the place that has all of those big tourist attractions there, whether it's Dollywood or the what do you call it? The Smoky Mountain Knife Works, or a whole bunch of other things down in that area. And yes, there's even a lodge store there. There's also a huge flea market down in that area, which is well worth going to. And at that flea market, I found this for 15 bucks, which again, I could not pass up on it because, as I said, I thought this was cute and I certainly wanted to use it. And I have used it for baking, because you can really bake some nice odd shaped bread and even cakes in this pan. So I'm actually glad to own an unusual piece like this. And yeah, we're going back to the 1930s here, which just shows as well that folks have been baking in cast iron pretty much from the beginning. Excuse me. And Cynthia Wesley Corey, I got one large round homemade for my mechanic. No. One to eat that day and we free. Oh yeah, I use those pans to make meatloaves. Yes, exactly. So, and it's more proof as well that baking in cast iron is, I would say, is probably just as popular as frying in cast iron. And yet there's less. It seems to be not the first thing that people think about, even though really, what do we do? What half the time when we use our Dutch ovens, for instance? I mean, if we're we throw them in the oven and we are baking and roasting. So yeah, I mean, cast iron, as far as I'm concerned, is again the best thing you can do to oh, okay, good. I saw a notice here, and I was afraid that something had happened to the feed, but no, I guess it's still looking okay here. Hmm. You grew up good, Corey. Papa Dan, I picked up a John Wright rooster trivet last week. Fair size, but that's interesting. And well, hey, I mean, nothing wrong with that. If you can get some use out of it, then definitely use it. So, Target shows the double cooker set now over 2 times the old price. Really? The cast iron combo cooker, $49.99. I'm not sure if that's twice the old price. I mean, I know that prices of everything have gone up, uh, especially recently. I remember when I first got into this hobby, for instance, the large 10-inch skillet was selling at places like Wally World for less than $15, whereas the 12-inch skillet was selling for $15 at Walmart. Now, the 12-inch skillet has gone above $20 at Walmart, unfortunately, and I believe the large 10-inch skillet is selling for $20 at Walmart. So, regrettably, the price of everything has gone up. Way back when, one of the first cast iron pieces I got was the combo cooker, in fact. That was not necessarily, I think it might have been the third piece of cast iron that I actually got for myself. First one I got was the Lodge Wok. Now that I'm thinking of it, I think that may have even been the next one after that. So the second piece I got for myself was the Lodge Combo Cooker, the Dutch oven with the skillet lid. And I got a lot of use out of that and then ended up giving it away, largely because, well, my collection has expanded. However, despite that, I got another one for my parents and then ended up inheriting it back. So I still have the Lodge Combo Cooker. And I've been doing my best to get some use out of that as well. But yeah, Dutch ovens though. I've said before, and I will continue to say that I think a cast iron Dutch oven, a bare cast iron Dutch oven, that is, not just an enamel one, but a bare cast iron Dutch oven, I think it's a necessity in a kitchen. A lot of people may not think so because these days, of course, you've got a crock pot and an air fryer. But I will continue to say that you'll get an enormous amount of use out of a bare cast iron Dutch oven, and I would consider that an essential kitchen item. If you are going to get your first pieces of cast iron, yes, the first thing you absolutely should get should be a 10-inch skillet. Boy, I like this. I'm walking around and pacing and everything as I'm talking here. So that means, yeah, thanks to this wireless mic, boy, this thing, I am really going to enjoy using this thing. That's for sure. Val's Black Cat's Rule. Mom loved head cheese. Too weird for even me. So, yeah. Oh yes, I just roasted a chicken in my Dutch oven, and it was delicious. Stay away from the Nutro Rat. Oh yeah, yeah. That's yet another thing that I really want to give a try here. So for house washing, oh, I see. That's something else completely. That's all right. Anyway, oh, did somebody talk about head cheese when it comes to baking in cast iron? Here's another item that I think I've shown off on the live a few times. The uh, the Lodge, and this was made by Lodge, as I understand it. This, in fact, is a head cheese mold. Yeah. Although people have used this thing for baking a lot of other things too. And yeah, this thing sure does look kind of scary, doesn't it? But then again, Halloween is coming. So this would be an excuse, I think, to break out this particular piece and make something scary in it, like cornbread or a cake, for instance, or even head cheese. I do have a video. I did use this thing to make head cheese. And my understanding, as I said, was that they were in fact made by Lodge Cast Iron. So I believe Lodge has even claimed credit for it, even though this is completely unmarked. If they ever made these things again today, you can be sure it would be marked with the Lodge logo somewhere. Oh yeah, um, there were a few of these made, and I've seen a few of them on eBay that have a USA logo on it. When they were making Made in USA, and they put USA right on the forehead. But I don't think those were very popular, unfortunately. I think people like the aesthetic value of the unmarked pieces. So, yeah, head cheese, well, it depends on how the head cheese is spiced. I've bought head cheese from at a butcher shop, and I wasn't too crazy about the taste of it. Then I went and made head cheese, and I loved it. Probably because I used my own spices, but nonetheless, oh yeah, no, sorry, that was just me getting a text on my phone. Yeah, if you make it yourself and use the spices that you want, then you are pretty much guaranteed to come up with a head cheese that you will enjoy. I know I certainly did. And I guess with head cheese, there's the weirdness factor of using the head. And there's really no reason for it. I mean, it's like people find it squeamish because it's a head. Well, okay. And what's really the difference between eating the head and eating any other part of the pig or the cow? I mean, after all, when you consider you're eating the pig's shoulder, you're eating the muscle, you're literally eating the butt. And then, of course, you get into the insides with the hearts and the gizzards and even the Rocky Mountain oysters. So, yeah, I've I have found it a lot of fun to try new things that I simply have not tried before, like when I made Rocky Mountain oysters or head cheese, and it's been a lot of fun doing that. So I can only say that if you have the opportunity to try something, I would encourage you to try it. If you don't like it, well, at least it's a learning experience. Or again, as with the head cheese, you could make it yourself and then you can make it the way you want to make it. So that looks like a little cast iron bathtub. Yeah, doesn't it though? um, but as I said, I have used this for making. Well, I made head cheese in this, in fact, once, and it's in that video where I made head cheese. And I've used this. I've made cakes, and I've attempted to make bread. I have not been very successful with making bread in cast iron, I'm afraid. And it's also yet another great pan for making sauces and stews, just like all of those other ones. So, but yeah, yeah, this thing, I don't know if cute is the right word for it, but I certainly found it attractive when I saw it online, and that's why I could not resist, especially when I found it for $15. So, but we can keep on going. I mean, if we go even further back through the years, here's one that I found last year, and that I've very much enjoyed, and I think a lot of people have seen this as well, and that is the Turks Head Pen. Actually, as I found out, these things were pretty popular during the 19th century and I guess the early 20th century. Lodge even made one of these in their early days. There's a Turk's Head Pen that looks like this, but it has more of an indented mark handle on it. So this is definitely not a Lodge. But even though you can find the Turk's head pan like this with a gate mark pretty easily. And in fact, this is gate marked, although it's kind of hard to see. However, they seem to simply stop making these during the 20th century, and I don't have any explanation as to why were no longer popular because I like the design of them. You can make little mini cupcakes in a pan like this, and they would have a nice shape to them. So I don't have any explanation, but again, this was yet another thing I scored at Brimfield, and I'm certainly glad to have done so. So I don't know. And the reason why they call it Turk's Head Pan, as I found out, it's not a. I would not call this racist, please, but it is in fact because these little cups seem to have the shape of the battle helmets that the Turkish armies would wear during the days of the Ottoman Empire and all of the Turkish or Muslim invasions of Europe that took place from the 1500s up to, well, all the way up to the 1800s. Actually, earlier than the 1500s. I'm sorry. Then we get into things like the Crusades and so forth. But that is why they call this a Turk's head pan. I don't think I would call that racist. No. Because, as I said, it's based on the helmets that they wore, and it's really not meant as anything else. So, but like I said, we're going back to the 19th century here, where again, baking in cast iron has been popular really from the earliest days. After all, folks may know about the recipes that they often baked in the 19th century when you talk about things like Johnny cakes and hoe cakes that were made back in those days. So, yeah, baking in cast iron, as I said, has in fact been really popular all the way back, from the very beginning. And Bob S. They doubled as helmets and bread pans. Yeah, exactly. No, it's not racist. So, oh, hi, Trouble. Hey, Trouble. Hi. Hi. Yeah, you. I know you probably want some attention and probably wouldn't mind a tweet or two either. So, um, oh yeah, they don't. Yes, exactly. That's interesting to know about that pan. Yeah, I thought so too. That's one thing I've said enough times before as well about one of the reasons why I enjoy cast iron, especially vintage cast iron, is the history, as well as being able to cook in these. So yeah, he's gaining weight. Does he go outside yet? Yeah, no, that's the thing. That's probably why he's gaining weight. I have not yet let him out, and I have been debating back and forth um, as to whether I should let him out now because the cold weather is coming. And I'm gonna have to simply, close up the house and keep him and Mobley inside over the winter anyway. So while you are right that he is gaining some weight, there he is. But I'm I've kind of reluctantly made the decision, even though he doesn't like that. He's pawing at the door, he wants to go out. But I'm thinking it might be better to just keep them in until next spring. And then next spring, I will make a cat door and let them go out and explore. So, yeah, Trouble won't want to go out in the cold weather. Yeah, there is that. So, that's why yeah, even though I actually feel kind of bad because he really wants to go out. But for that reason, as I said already, the temperature is going to drop down to 40 degrees. And tomorrow night is going to be the night when I turn on the radiators for the first time. So, oh, yeah, it gets cold in upstate. Yes, it does. Well, the weather is not that different from what it is in New England. So, yeah, I'm not too worried about that. I'm starting to smell that cake, I'm glad to say here. And yeah, actually, let me pull down this thing here because, yay, isn't it great now? I actually have a window in the oven so that you can see how this thing is coming. Not bad, actually. However, there is still, what time is it now? There's still at least another 20 minutes left on this. So, I mean, I have to be patient. But this thing looks like it's coming pretty good here. So far, so good. And whoops, actually, let me pull this view down so you can see the cast iron again. I know you would prefer that. So yeah, they'll come. Just watch them. Well, that's the other thing about letting him go out. I mean, even though I'm here 24/7 these days, I would need to build a cat door so that they can come and go as they please because I really would not be able to just simply let them out and keep them out. That I cannot do. So, peg tooth. My cats still go outside in the winter. I make them an insulated flat roof cat house that doubles as a side table in the deck. Buckshot GSW made some great stuff, and some of it was almost impossibly thin for cast iron. Well, that's interesting. So you must think you're really something with that lighted oven. Yes, I am. I am enjoying this. Um, because yeah, I mentioned how many times now back in my previous apartment where that electric oven was a POS in a number of ways. Because back before I moved to that apartment, I was way back in my first apartment when I first started making these videos. Um, I was using an electric oven then too, but that was a better electric oven. That one did have a window at least. So, And so yes, when I moved into that other tiny apartment and had that POS oven, I really, really regretted it. That's why, yes, I am indeed enjoying the heck out of this oven here, besides the fact that it's gas, but also because it has a window. So I'm definitely not going to complain about that. Yeah. Buckshot MC. It only has one round of seasoning in it, so I haven't been able to cook with it. The handle feels odd in my hand. And if I look at what we're referring to, I would like to see. Oh yeah, a GSW. That's what you're talking about. A GSW I picked up just because it was made in Canada. Um, well, it is possible to cook even with just one layer of seasoning on the pan, to be fair. But I mean, you could certainly add another layer or more than one if you want. So, Bob S., I've lost 28 pounds. Congratulations. But when you're saying the handle feels odd in your hand, how do you mean? Is it simply shaped different, or does the pan feel light, or does it feel heavy? I'm honestly curious. I'd like to know what it means. Jose Latias, that's your story in the Turks Head Pen, and you're sticking to it. Well, it's not so much that I'm sticking to it; it's what I read. I read about the history of these pans in that it's based on the helmets, and that's about it. So that's why I'm not going to hesitate to call this a Turk's head pan, even in these days of being woke. As far as I can tell, there's nothing offensive about calling it a Turk's head pan, and so I will stick with that. I do like the Nights Work store. Oh man, I just realized how long it's been since I've gone on a road trip down south now. I'm thinking we're talking at least 4 years. I think it was 2018. That sounds about right. So I am definitely missing that. I'm hoping I can go on a road trip next year. So you should use the Jeffersons theme song for the new intro to the show. Yeah. I'd probably get a copyright strike from YouTube for that. Are ornate handled pans as fragile as they look? They look really light and neat. Yes, those are very very thin and light. I will agree. You're talking about what they call the fancy handle series, I think. The ones that were made in the 19th century. And as I've mentioned enough times, boy, it sure is nice to be able to walk around with this mic. Have I said that enough times yet? I'm looking over here. Whoops, hi, trouble. I'm looking over here where, in fact, I have that fancy handled skillet, and I'm just trying to remember where I put it with my new locations for the cast iron collection here. Where the heck did I put it, in fact? Okay, I won't stay away too long. I was trying. Oh, there it is. I found it over here. I guess my next step is probably to get like a head cam or something so that you can see me walking around here. Here. Anyway, is this the one? No, that's not it either, I'm afraid. That's the Griswold number 10. I'm sorry. Oh, here it is. Got it. I'm betting you can hear that. Me putting that lid on. Here it is. You were talking about the fancy handled pans. So let me bring this back here. Here it is. You're talking about this one, I think, the so-called fancy handled pan with the ornate handles. This is, in fact, very thin and light. Considering that this is like a number 9 sized skillet, it is actually quite light and actually quite smooth in the center as well. That's one of the reasons why I like it. And in fact, this thing has taken a fair amount of abuse too. There are a number of little dents in the bottom. And I told the story of how when I found this thing, it was actually had not one but two cracks on it. And I took the time to have the cracks repaired, and I am not regretting it. But yes, these are among those unknown pans from the 19th century, and it's believed that because these handles were similar, even if they had different designs. It's believed that they were all part of a series. The nice thing about this one is that it fits exactly, exactly, well, almost exactly, with this Griswold number 9 lid. So that's actually quite convenient here. And I'm not even sure if that's the regular size of this, or if maybe this particular hand design on the handle might be related to the size of the pan. I don't know. Maybe there are other experts in gate mark pans, and yeah, the gate mark is very prominent as well. Also, this thing is definitely not flat. It is actually, I wouldn't call it warped, but it really has a definite concave bottom here. It has a very high heat ring though, so it doesn't seem like a spinner, but it absolutely is not flat either. So, going down the list here, yes, many of the GSW pens had rolled over handle, looking handle that is hollow on the bottom, and it's also on the small side for a handle. Hello, Warren, Ukraine. Nice to see you here. Glad to see you made it. So yeah, that's another Hearts design. An oldie with that one pour spout. Oh yes, that is the other thing, isn't it? The fact that this thing has a single pour spout, and it's actually quite a prominent pour spout too, more so than you would have from a modern day cast iron pan. So I definitely need to make more gravy in that pan because it would be really easy to pour. There's no denying that. And have a good night, and yes, you too. Good night to you too as well. So, Warren, Ukraine. I had to make pizza last Thursday. Well, nothing wrong with that, and I can only hope the pizza turned out well too. So, it looks like a pie pan with a handle. That might be one way to put it. Although, again, this is a pretty darn big pie pan, that's for sure. I mean, yes, you can make a huge pie in this, and in fact, I've made a huge pumpkin pie. And gee, now that I'm thinking of it, we're getting into that time of year for pumpkin pie, aren't we? That might be a project maybe for a live video. I don't know, maybe in the next couple of weeks or so. So, but yeah, this thing, I guess you could say it's shaped like a pie pan, and arguably, well, there's no reason why you couldn't make a pie in it. Of course, you could make a pie in any of these pans, no matter what the shape. You could make a pie in this bread pan, for instance. So, and there's really nothing wrong with that. Just got to try thinking outside the box, I guess. Warren, I made 2 pizzas and they turned out good. So, yeah. I might go off of my diet for a slice of pie. Yeah, okay. This all sounds like that's probably got to be the next project, I think. Not necessarily next week. I'm thinking next week here. Boy, I said before, I'm enjoying this pacing back and forth thing. Next week, I think I'm probably going to break up the Dutch oven and we're going to do some Dutch oven cooking here on this new gas stove. Maybe I might even do gumbo. I've actually kind of had the urge to do that. Probably because I found that canned gumbo in the store the other day. So, Rick, it was so good. I ate way too much of it. Yeah, that's the other thing. The other problem with cooking in cast iron is that you have to be careful not to eat it all. Definitely. But isn't it great, though, to be able to make pizza in a cast iron pan, especially these days? I mean, it's what I said last week. What is pizza delivery these days? $30, $40, $50, and that's whether you're buying one pizza or a special. And don't even ask if you want to try throwing in a side of like chicken wings or fries and a 2 liter of soda with that either. So yeah, the price of delivery has gone sky high, and so compared to that, especially since it's so easy to make a pizza in a cast iron pan, there's really the reasons not to do it are becoming fewer and fewer. And all I can do is just keep practicing my pizza, and likewise anybody else as well. You can either make your own dough, or you can buy store-bought dough, or you can even buy a store-bought crust. There's no reason not to. But yeah, there you go. For a lot less expensive, a lot less expense, you get yourself a pizza night. Nothing hardly on them. I love pies, and I'm just noticing I've never made a pie in my cast iron skillets. What a shame. Well, then, gosh darn it, you're just gonna have to break that. You're gonna have to do something about that, aren't you? So, what company put the size number at a 90-degree angle to the handle? That would be Volrath. So there you go. I hope that helps, Frank Marullo. Yes, Volrath made cast iron pan, unmarked pans. They made some with their logo as well, but yes, it's true that on a Volrath, this is not a Volrath, but rather than having the size number here or here as opposed to the handle, Volrath was the only company that put the put the number here at a right angle. So yes, they are the ones. The Volrath company is still in business, by the way. They stopped making cast iron cookware and moved on to making other kinds of cookware. They don't sell their stuff in stores, but they're a very popular supplier to restaurants and businesses. If you go into any restaurant supply store, you will find a huge amount of aluminum cookware and just about any kind of cooking utensils you can think of from Volrath. Just about all of them. Well, no, I'm not sure about the aluminum pans. I'm going to take a closer look. They may still be making their aluminum cookware here in the US, but they do, in fact, import a lot of Asian made stuff. That's just life, and that's just a business. So I'm not going to diss them for that. I mean, as I said, I'm not the one running their business. So the politics about Asian made cookware, I've said already, I'm not interested in getting into it. A lot of people are, but that's their business. And anyway, you can always choose not to use a Volrath because it was made in China, or in fact, if it was made in India. Because yeah, hey, look, here's a very good and very sturdy tongs that I got, and yes, I did get it. I admit because of the Volrath logo, which is right here. Am I seeing this right? There we are. Here's the Volrath logo. This was actually made in India, in fact, not China. And so these are probably my favorite tongs, especially because they are so durable here. They work very well, and I'm quite happy to own this and use these tongs from Volrath. So yes, as I said, they're still in business, and you can still order their stuff online or go to any restaurant store. We are getting close to the time when we can take that cake out of the oven. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. Bruno Denise, I'm definitely doing something about that this weekend. Maybe an apple pie or a pumpkin pie. Ooh, or tarte tatin, if I'm pronouncing that right. Tis the season for apple pie, definitely, and you're starting to get my urge up to make one as well. So Bob as I had to adjust the spring in the ones I have. It was tiring just to hold them closed. I'm guessing you're talking about those tongs, I suppose. Yeah, Volrath is professional cookware. Yes, and I'm certainly glad to own one because, most importantly, because it's durable. There are some kitchen items you can still get at a dollar store, but I found those are few and far between, and tongs are really not one of them. Tongs, dollar store tongs will work for a few uses before they start to come apart. So, I'm actually debating, especially since it's been, since that's a somewhat smaller pan, as to whether or not I should risk taking out the cake and giving it the toothpick test. I had to adjust the spring in the ones. No, we said that already. Hello, Midnight Lacey. Tongs need to be long. Well, yes, fortunately, I got a nice big set of tongs here as well. So, which I have used several times as well. These ones, on the other hand, are the one-piece tong, not two. So they're just simply made in this manner, and they don't have a spring on them. This particular one, of course, can tend to go back and forth if I'm not careful. And this one, in fact, is a Winco. And everybody knows about Winco. Those are the other restaurant supplier. And Winco actually yes, is definitely made in China. No question about that. But Winco, in general, is pretty good quality stuff. Some of it is pretty darn cheap, but some of it is not bad at all. And that's why I don't mind having those tongs from Winco either. So, hmm. Cross Bruno, nice long tongs. Nordic Ware seems to claim to have introduced the bunt pan, according to Wiki. Well, they didn't exactly. What they did was they invented the word bunt. And we got into the history of that as well when we talked about the cast iron bunt pan. So for these next few minutes, let me move this aside. And now that I can, let's dig this out, shall we? Here we are. This is the Lodge fluted cake pan. Let me move this over, in fact. This is the Lodge fluted cake pan, which is not a bunt pan, even though everybody calls it a cast iron bunt pan. And regarding Nordic Ware, yes, they did in fact invent the word bunt, B-U-N-D-T. They invented that word and trademarked it and used it on their cake pan of this design. And they did this in the year 1950. So yes, even though this design has been around since long before 1950, they didn't trademark the design; they just trademarked the word. So that's why there are any number of companies making cake pans of this design, especially after the bunt pan caught fire in. Well, what I mean is that their popularity exploded in the 1960s thanks to that famous recipe, the tunnel of fudge. If you've heard that story, then you probably know it. Very briefly, there was a cooking contest. Who was it? Good Housekeeping? Yeah, that's it. They had a yearly baking contest, which was very popular during the 1960s, 1950s, and 1970s. And in one year, was it 1968, I think? 67? No, 66, that was it. The second place winner in that Good Housekeeping baking contest was, in fact, that chocolate cake known as the Tunnel of Fudge. It was the second place winner, not the first place winner. Yet it caught on like wildfire. That thing just spread across the country and became a fad, an incredible cooking fad. You know how? Well, no, you don't know how. I don't know how, but in the 1950s, for instance, there were some foods that were so popular, like baked Alaska, for instance. Well, the bunt cake and the tunnel of fudge became extremely popular to the point where it was largely because of the tunnel of fudge that the bunt cake really became a household name. And anybody who seriously bakes simply has to have a bunt pan. But like I said, this design was around before Nordic Ware invented the name bunt, and that's one reason why Lodge just simply calls it a fluted cake pan. And there are even pans from the 19th century that have this very same design. So Nordic Ware did not invent the bunt pan. What they did do was they trademarked the name bunt. And it was not even because of Nordic Ware that the bunt pan became a household name. It was because of the tunnel of fudge. And having said all that, taking care of sick fur babies, my condolences there. Having said all that, I think I've finally managed to talk long enough that I do believe it's time to reveal the cake, or at least I hope so. So let me. No, actually, I can't use a toothpick. It's too short. Let me dig out a skewer here. Here's a skewer. And let's get out these pot holders. Yeah, as I said, I almost burned myself last week, but these pot holders are much better. And with that, it's time now for the reveal, or at least I hope so. Thank you, everybody, for waiting this long. And here it is. Ooh, this thing darkened nicely. Well, yeah, I have to remember, this is my first time cooking in a gas oven. I hope I didn't overbake it, in fact. But nonetheless, there it is. Let me move this down a little bit. Right about here. Yeah, here it is. Our chocolate chip pumpkin spice cake. Actually, this is a nice flat top. This thing, I'm hoping that means this thing rose okay. Usually, I would have expected more of a concave top, but here it seems to have risen rather evenly. And well, who knows? Maybe it's because I adjusted the legs on that stove. Yeah, I'm guessing, but who knows? However, let's see what happens if we carefully, very carefully. Uh-oh. Oh, okay. I was afraid. Let me try one last time. Down in here. I do believe we're good. Cake, she is done. Let's turn off the oven. And there we are. That means, though, unfortunately, I have to wait another 20 minutes before I can flip it. So that means, yeah, I don't think I can keep talking on, and I'm not asking people to stay until past 10 o'clock. But there it is, a chocolate chip pumpkin spice cake. This is me hopping on the pumpkin spice bandwagon because I'm proud of this recipe actually. Cobbled this one together a few years ago, and folks have liked it. So all I have to do is wait. Oh, actually, let's take a close look at this before signing off for the night. I notice the edges of the cake are pulling away from the side. So that's a good sign here that when this thing cools off, I think this thing is going to flip very well. Yeah, I don't think I've ever baked a cake with such an even flat top here. I'm quite impressed, if I may say so, and I will give the credit to that gas oven. I'm have I mentioned yet that I'm really enjoying this gas oven? Gas stove? Yes, I am, because this was my first time baking in this gas stove, this gas oven. And if this cake comes out smoothly, then I am really going to be overjoyed. And yeah, I'm going to be baking a lot more in this new oven. So I'm quite happy with that. I will definitely have to post a picture or maybe even record a video of the flip and see how it turns out. So, do you deliver? Well, unfortunately, the delivery cost would be far too much for everyone. So, oh yeah, looks like success to me, says Pibgorn. Yes, I'm definitely enjoying this. As a bad kid, I would exchange the O&A thermometers in hospital examine. Oh yeah, examination rooms. That's always funny until it had probably done, until I thought it had been done before. So it would probably flip sooner. Well, there's certainly possible. So you're gonna get as big as your house. Yeah, I'm gonna have to watch that definitely. The recipe is posted. Val's Black Cat's Rules. Look on the description of this video. I have a link to the recipe. This is chocolate chip pumpkin spice cake. You leveled your stove. Yes, that may very well help. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Do a short of the flip. That's not a bad plan in itself. Okay, I will definitely have to arrange for that. And that way we will have it. Now you're cooking with gas. Yes, exactly. Yeah, I am so psyched with how this has all turned out. And I can only hope that the flip turns out as well, but I don't see why not. Everything else looks like it's been worth it. So, especially since I didn't forget the buttermilk at the very end. You remember? I could, yeah, from the way this thing looks, it might have been successful even without the buttermilk. But still, here it is. Yeah, I'm gonna be push mowing this spring. Yeah, get this, only see what happens there. Yeah, that's the other thing. Yes, it's true. I have never mowed a lawn in my life. I'm kind of not exactly psyching myself, but bracing myself for this weekend when I think I'm gonna really commit to trying to mowing this lawn at least once before the cold weather sets in. However, I do believe it's time to move on because I've been talking and talking and talking. But here is a look at cast iron baking. And yeah, this there is a lot to be said for leveling your equipment. No, definitely. Yeah, I will give more credit to leveling the stove. Yeah, and thank you as well. I'm enjoying this mic too. Can you tell? So Mowing is the bane of my existence. Thank God for cast iron. Yeah, gee, instead of mowing the lawn, I think I'll go in and bake something in cast iron. But yes, I think you're right. And I don't think I've given enough credit to the fact that I leveled the stove. And let me, I did a short video on that, and I'm definitely going to encourage folks to give this a try. If you're having trouble with oil running in your pan and not just spreading out evenly, give it a try. Level your stove because this is an unexpected bonus. So I'm very happy that I did that, and I will encourage everyone check out your stove, use a level, and straighten it. Level your stove, and this will be the result. So, okay, I pay people to do my lawn. Yes, I don't blame you one bit. So, but I do believe, as I said, I've got to get going, especially since, yeah, like you said, I will prepare a short of the flip and see how it turns out. But thank you, everybody, once again for sticking around. I still can't believe it. Yet again, I broke the handle to this tripod. Good. That's twice in the last, 3 weeks? Oh, well. Nonetheless, again, thank you so much, everybody, for sticking around this long. I mean, even now, we're an hour and 50 minutes into it, and we still have 89 people here. So thank you very much. Yes, that's been fun. Thank you, Miss French Twist, Midnight Lacey, Pegtooth, and Knee Oaths. Good night, and good night, all. Yeah, have a good week, and you too, everybody. Thank you so much. I mean, I say this every week because I mean this every week. It's you folks here that are making these live videos so much fun. I mean, I've started doing this just to have some fun making it live, and yes, it is fun. But having you folks here and hang while I'm doing it has really made it worthwhile, and that's how I've kept it up for the past 2 years, and I keep on doing it, especially because it's been so much fun. And thank you once again, everybody, for showing up. And as I said, next week, I'm thinking I'm going to break out the Dutch oven and we will do something in Dutch oven. I'm not sure if it's baking, roasting, or maybe even oh, yeah, that's what I said. Gumbo. Let's look on gumbo. I'll prepare the roux in advance so that I won't spend half an hour just scraping that pan. But nonetheless, there we go. Yes, I will do a short. Hopefully it'll work. Yeah, okay, I'll commit myself. Whether or not the cake is a success, I will do a short and do a pop-up video and show the results. That's my plan. Thank you so much for showing up, everybody. Thank you, everybody. I can only hope you've enjoyed yourself. I know I certainly have. I do my best to be entertaining. And thank you, everybody. And we'll see you all next week. So, yes, thank you, War in Ukraine and Midnight Lacey and everybody else. And have to repeat a lot of recipes. Yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to doing as well. So next week, I don't think I've done gumbo live yet. So let's see what happens when we do some gumbo next week. But until then, have a good night, everybody. See you next Wednesday.